Charles Manson, America's most notorious criminal and cult figure, has died in a prison hospital. But nearly half a century after his most notorious crime, interest in him has not waned. Charles Manson died on November 19, aged 83. He was sentenced to life in prison for mass murder in 1971 and was serving his sentence in a California state prison. Almost 50 years ago, members of the family, which Manson founded, broke into the home of actress and Roman Polanski's wife Sharon Tate to kill everyone there. The actress, who was in the final months of pregnancy, and four others were stabbed to death. The killers disguised the crime so that the evidence would lead to members of the Black Panthers, a leftist group that was then waging an armed struggle against what it called white racism and police brutality. Manson hoped that his crime and the subsequent murders of two businessmen would provoke an interracial conflict, in the midst of which Manson would act as the ruler of America. His plan failed. Manson's ideas sent shockwaves through society. He was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and sentenced to death, which was later commuted to life imprisonment. At the age of 80, Manson was given permission to marry 26-year-old Afton Elaine Burton. The girl specially moved to Corcoran, California, to be closer to the prison where her chosen one was held. She said that she loved him and was ready to be with him, despite the fact that Manson could not ask for a review of the sentence until 2027. Why would a 26-year-old woman want to marry him? It shows that he is still attractive to the counterculture today. Manson is a rebel, a criminal, a radical vegetarian who is also prepared to kill to defend his ideas, says Daniel Kane, a lecturer in culture and literature at the University of Sussex. It is disgusting and insane, and it is highly politicized in much the same way that modern terrorists are politicized. He continues. Sister Sharon Tate, who spoke on behalf of the families of all of Manson's victims, called the marriage ridiculous. In 2015, it became known that Manson called off the wedding, saying that his future bride was simply using him. The press around the world continued to write and talk about Manson. More than 30 books have been written and published about his life and crimes. One of them was written by prosecutor Vincent Bugliosi, who prosecuted Manson in his trial. Since 1974, more than 7 million copies of the book have been sold. Manson's statements have often been published in the media. In the 1980s, he gave 4 major interviews. Manson called himself a political prisoner and claimed that the government was holding him hostage. "Your system created me. I am what you made of me. I am only a reflection of you," he said. Who is Charles Manson? Manson was born in Ohio in 1934. He had a difficult childhood, full of deprivation. Despite a fairly high level of intelligence, he was forced to change several special schools due to the inability to write and read properly. When Manson was 5 years old, his mother, who suffered from alcoholism, and his uncle were imprisoned for robbing a car service. At 13, he was already making ends meet with armed robberies of casinos and stores. Psychologists diagnosed him with a tendency to depression and persecution mania. Experts described him as an aggressively antisocial person. This, according to researchers, was provoked by his family life, if it could be called that. After he lost the ability to support his pregnant wife and pay bills, he began to steal. After spending 8 years in prison, Manson was released in 1967, in the midst of the Summer of Love, a spontaneous hippie protest in San Francisco. Manson had a fixation with the Beatles' Helter Skelter. The song metaphorically describes the difficulties of love, using imagery from a fairground carousel. Manson misinterpreted its meaning. In his opinion, it predicted a major war between the races, in which he and his followers would be the only whites to survive, hiding in Death Valley in California. Manson believed that African Americans would be unable to organize their own community and would call on Manson to become their leader. Helter Skelter song. This song from the Beatles' White Album, along with several others, was urged by Manson to be prophetic, predicting a major race war. Its lyrics were written in blood on the refrigerators of two of his victims' homes. The connection between Manson and the song continued after the trial. It was used as the title of prosecutor Vincent Bugliosi's 1974 book. U2 recorded a cover version of the song, which was included on the album Rattle and Hum. The song is preceded by the line spoken by the band's frontman Bono. "This is a song Charles Manson stole from the Beatles. We're giving it back." Line. Manson founded a commune that settled on a ranch in the California desert. The commune consisted mainly of women from middle-class families. Together with them, he used LSD and threw orgies. He was very good at using the hippie subculture to his advantage. After all, the hippies were offering themselves as an apolitical subculture that was creating its own utopias based on sex, drugs, and rock and roll, Kane explains. Manson took LSD, music, the idea of free love and communal living from the hippies, but in his hands it became a weapon of mass murder. A very strange, but very, very attractive absolute evil, he says. Manson's followers compared him to Jesus for his long hair and beard. There are a lot of bad guys and thugs out there. We've seen a lot worse crimes than Manson did. So why are we still talking about him? Bugliosi told Rolling Stone in 2012. He has something that only 1,000% of people have. An aura, a vibration, as the kids in the 60s called it. Wherever he went, young people around him were immediately drawn to him. Bugliosi continued. Psychopaths charm and persuade, says David Wilson, a professor of criminology at the University of Birmingham. They seem to be totally focused on getting you under their thumb, getting you to like them, he says. Manson's crimes were puzzling. How did an ex-con from a poor background become a guru and attract middle-class youth? Manson's story is one of drugs, orgies, and a cult, three troubles that troubled parents whose children were growing up in an era of free love. It coincided with growing divisions over civil liberties, racism, and the Vietnam War. Several American cities were engulfed in riots in 1968. According to Wilson, Manson was able to become a cult figure because he told Americans how carefree they were about the threats that, in his opinion, surrounded them. Combined with his charisma, this had a greater effect than the murders. He became a cult figure because he put an end to the swinging 60s. His strange philosophy was in tune with the dark manifestations of drug culture. It was no longer a fight of flowers. The youth subculture had become much darker than it seemed before. The professor concludes, the trial of Charles Manson and his followers went down in history as one of the most high-profile in the 20th century. The courtroom was more like a stage. Manson himself tried to control the attention of the press. He drew an inverted cross on his forehead, made harsh statements, and staged outbursts of hysteria. His family behaved the same way. They smiled, sang songs, and demonstrated complete contempt for the jury. But behind all this show was a monstrous truth. Murders committed by the hands of young people who once dreamed of freedom and love. This is what shocked America. How easily one person could turn dreams into a weapon. The verdict sounded like a lightning strike, the death penalty. Manson and his accomplices were to be executed in the electric chair. But fate intervened. In 1972, California temporarily abolished the death penalty, and their sentence was commuted to life imprisonment. Thus began Charles Manson's long life behind bars. He remained there for decades, becoming a symbol of evil, a living reminder of what human faith is capable of when it is subordinated to the will of a manipulator. His face with a burned symbol on his forehead appeared in newspapers and TV shows more than once, causing fear and curiosity at the same time. Manson died in 2017 at the age of 83. And even then, almost half a century after the murders, His death became a sensation. He never repented, did not admit his guilt, and did not renounce his ideas. But the most terrible thing is not Manson himself. The most terrible thing is that he was surrounded by people ready to carry out his orders. Girls and boys who once believed in free love and a new world became killers, confident that they were doing something great. This story became a symbol of the late 60s, the end of the era of hippies, music, freedom. After the Manson family, America stopped believing that the world could be changed only by love. It saw the other side dark, frightening, full of chaos. And if you ask who Charles Manson is today, the answer will be simple. He is not just a killer. He is a reminder that evil does not always come in the form of a monster. Sometimes it smiles, plays the guitar, and promises love.